Welcome to my story, my dream. So I'm your host today. This is Dr. Srividhya Sukumar. You might have seen me quite some time in many of the occasions. And this special program is dedicated to all women entrepreneurs and eminent women personalities across the globe. So we take privilege and pride in launching this very close to the Women's Day, which was celebrated recently. So they say that when your heart truly desires something, the universe will find a way to help you. But the journey is rarely simple. With all fear, doubt, obstacles often stand in the way. But this show is dedicated to those women who didn't give up, who kept their trust, and who kept on going. Whether we are navigating a transition or nurturing it quietly, a dream that's a very longing dream for us, or standing on the edge of a breakthrough, this is the space for you where you can open up. And we are moving beyond the super myth of the superwoman to talk about real life, real dreams, real resilience, and who made the real dreams come into the reality. Today, we are opening the floor for such a conversation. It's going to be truly an inspiring conversation. And it matters to each one of us as we are going to hear the story and dream together towards a progression note. So we are delighted to invite before you, as a part of My Story, My Dream, a rendezvous with Dr. Virginia Rivera. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Virginia. Thanks for accepting our welcome, our invitation, and thanks for presenting yourself on the show with us. Thank you so much.
I'm really happy to be here, and it's really great to be on this side of the seat instead of on the anchor position. So thank you for the invitation. I love the program. I think that we're going to be inspired by so many stories of resilience, of determination, of innovation. So I congratulate you for bringing this program to life. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Virginia. Thanks for the very sweet note. Well, talking about my story and my dream and the guest of today, Dr. Virginia is an internationally recognized entrepreneur, an executive leader, a global economic development strategist whose work spans from United States, Latin America, India, Europe, Australia, and also the most emerging international markets. Welcome, ma'am. With more than a decade of leadership across entrepreneurship and international partnership, media education, economic empowerment initiatives, I think I'm trying to remember all things because ma'am has spread out her wings in every single domain and discipline. So I'm trying to just recollect from my memory. So with a little learning of mine, and Dr. Virginia has established a niche for herself as a most respected global voice in the entrepreneurial system and women economic advancement and cross-border institutional collaborations. Dr. Virginia is the founder and president of Mujer Latina, right? From Puerto Rico, yeah. And based on a non-profit organization dedicated to advancing entrepreneurship, business education, economic mobility, and the leadership opportunities for women across the globe. Through all its programs and initiatives, the organization has supported thousands and thousands of women entrepreneurs through mentorship, through giving them education, through visibility platform, through business developments and support, and any other business initiatives that could have been mentioned there. Dr. Virginia is also the owner and executor of Solopreneurs. That's a very cute name, isn't it? Very innovative name, rather. Magazine, an international business and entrepreneurship publication with a presence across United States and Latin America, expanding to India and also to Dubai. Welcome to Dubai, ma'am. Thank you so much. So this magazine highlights entrepreneurs, innovators, thought leaders, forerunners and trailblazers, trendsetters with an impact-driven organization shaping the future of the business and leadership in the global collaboration. So in the corporate sector, Ma'am, Dr. Virginia Pereira is our respected guest for today, serves as a Vice President of Piyush Group of Companies and Trust, where she contributes to the strategic management and international development of a diverse portfolio of businesses and social interviews operating across India, Australia, Europe, and United States. So her role includes international relations, global partnerships, institutional development, brand positioning, and the global expansion initiatives. So, to name a few of the organizations where they have been associated with is the Guest House and Hospitality, Swarnaveli Eco Water Park, and James International School, Mahila Udyami Foundation, and their main focus, the forte is entrepreneurship and economic mobility, women economic participation, rural innovation and sustainability development, international business collaboration, education and workforce transformation, export and global market engagement, and community-centered economic growth. Fabulous. And it just goes on. It doesn't stop here. Known for her strategic vision, diplomatic leadership style, and an ability to build high-impact international relationships, which I have cherished every moment, she has become the most respected connector between countries and the global markets. So on that note, please put your hands together along with me to welcome the guest for today, Dr. Virginia Rivera.
Wow. Thank you so much for taking the time to acknowledge a life well lived, right? And I think that it's not about the title or the accolades. It's more about the experiences lived and all the wonderful people that I've been able to encounter on this trajectory, and it sounds like a lot because it was a lot and it has been a lot. So I really appreciate the fact that you took the time to really talk about everything, because definitely it's a life well. I'm very blessed.
And we are so glad to have you in this program of She Avatar. And Avatar is nothing but an incarnation from the reality, whatever the reality, and she is incarnated being a image of presentation before us, as a manifestation before us, as a demonstration before us, so others can take lead and they can follow us. So we welcome you wholeheartedly. We want more and more women to get inspired from you, and they should follow the same steps as you, and then they should be able to take it forward. Coming to my story and my dream. So at a time when society remains captivated by flawless image and curated success, my story and my dream dares to champion a more courageous narrative, and where authenticity is celebrated above perfection and vulnerability is recognized as the birthplace of the true thing. So on that note, Dr. Virginia, we are going into the questions now. Where did it start? Just throw some light on the early spark. May it be your childhood. What was the first version of your dream? That where you're seeing yourself today in front of the mirror, your upbringing and the early environment that has really shaped you today to what you are, and a specific person or a role model who first made you believe that the dream is possible. And have you ever felt left out reaching it there? Please, Dr. Virginia, we're very curious to know about you.
Well, thank you for the question. This question, I think, comes at a perfect time to honor the memory of my mother. And I know many times we say our mother is our first role model, our best friend. And I have to say that was true with me. Not best friend, definitely first role model. My mother was always a mother. She always had the authority. And she was a very strict but loving mother. Oh. So I grew up with roots, and I grew up with stability. Nonetheless, I grew up with a mother that was divorced with 3 children. So think back 43 years when we moved to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a small island in the Caribbean. And when I say small, we only have 3 million people. So we're very small. So it's 85% Catholic, 100%, 97% Christian. So at the time, it was a very conservative time. And my mother, we all moved here with my father. My father fell in love with another woman, and and he went back to the mainland, and my mother decided to the U.S. and my mother decided to stay in Puerto Rico. So my parents are both from Puerto Rico. They were taken to the United States when they were babies, and they were raised there. And then my dad brought us family back to Puerto Rico, and we were three little kids. I was probably 5.5, and then my brother was 4, and my sister was 2 years younger. And the truth is that we came to a place where normally we didn't speak the language. My mother definitely understood Spanish, but she did not speak Spanish because she was raised in the U.S. So when we came to Puerto Rico, we were very happy. We lived in my father was a general manager at a hotel, so he was in hospitality. And we lived in a hotel. We lived on the grounds, and it was a wonderful first year. And then things started to change. And this is when my father reimagined his life. And my mother decided to stay in Puerto Rico. So Puerto Rico, like I said before, giving you a little background, is a very traditional, cultural, Christian environment at the time. And having a divorced woman of 24 with 3 children was not accepted. So I have to say that I didn't realize this young. I thought that we were very special because we kept to ourselves. But the truth was that we didn't have a lot of friends because we were the daughters and the sons of a divorced woman at the time. But my mother never complained. She never let us know. Actually, my mother, I never saw her break down after my father, she threw him out. At the time, she made a decision that she preferred to stay alone with her kids than to live a double life. And that's a decision that everybody has a right to make. And she made that decision with consequences. The consequences were that we were ostracized in our community. And I grew very close to my siblings. So my brother and my sister were not only siblings, they were best friends. And my mother became my lifeline. My mother became my anchor, and she was definitely a role model. I say all this because I never really suffered. I never felt left out. Actually, I felt very special. She made us feel early on that we had talents and we had these abilities that were given to us by God. And very, very, very early on, she was able to identify who had what talent, and she would speak to it. So as I was growing up, I always knew that there was something special about me, that there was a calling for me. But most importantly, I remember telling my mom at one point, I hear when people talk to me, the way they address me, but I also hear a voice saying, you are the daughter of God. You are Nancy's daughter. And not only that, you are an incredible dancer. These are the things that played in my head when people would make fun of me or try to bully me. And so early on, I was very much fortified by the fact that I had the highest father, and that my mother was an incredible woman that really, really loved her kids. I say all these things, and I want you to know that my mother worked full time because my father did not support. So my mother had to work full time, and she had 2 additional jobs in order to make ends meet. At the time, early on, I just thought that my mother was the coolest mom. She was a businesswoman when everybody else that I knew, their dads were businessmen, but I had a businesswoman as a mother. So I early on really respected women that took care of their families and also worked. And in my mind, it was possible. And of course, in my mother's mind, there were no other options. That was what she had to do. So I share about the talents because I think that we forget to tell our children early on that they do have talents and that they do have abilities, and these are very different from everybody else. So never compare yourself with another student, with a best friend. You have to really understand how important you are because God makes no mistake. My mother told me this every day. God makes no mistakes. What has happened to us was meant to happen. And we are here because he wants us to do this, and we have a calling. So early on, I grew up with my talents, my abilities, feeling very special. But most importantly, I knew that I was going through whatever I had to go through because there was a purpose and there was a calling in my life. I'm talking and saying this, I was probably 6, 7, 8 years old. So I grew up with a very positive outlook. Even in the moments of challenge because we had many challenges. I always felt this is happening to grow me. This is happening to make me better. And I accepted every challenge that came my way, every challenge. When we were very young, kids would go to movies and they would go to concerts and they had infinite toys. And we had toys. I have to say that many of these toys were probably not new, but my mother always made them super special. She made new clothes for the dolls. She painted the cars a different color. So I always felt that I was living in abundance. When money was not there, and I can tell you that as we were growing up, we started to say, why can't we go to the movies like everybody else, to the cinema? And my mother said, but who said we can't? Of course we can. So she started to help us fully develop our talents. So she would say, Virginia, you're going to create a dance. And she would tell my brother, and you're going to sing. And she would tell my sister, who at the time was 3, 4, and 5 years old, very little. She would say, and you're going to create the costume. So let me tell you, my mother identified that I was an innate dancer, and I was. My brother he sung like an angel. Now he's a grown man, he doesn't sing that way anymore, but he still sings very nice. And my sister always had this panache and this way of dressing. You know, I'm talking about little girl, like a 3-year-old picking her shoes and picking her dress and just putting her ribbons on and really having a sense of fashion at the age of 3 and 4. So, and then we would go around the neighborhood and sell tickets for a dime. A dime in the US is 10 cents. In little construction paper tickets, and we would sell them all over. And then all those kids would come to my house and we would put on our show that we created. And my mother would always welcome them with Kool-Aid and popcorn. So Kool-Aid is a drink that at the time was probably like 5 cents. You mixed it with sugar and it just tasted like candy. And popcorn was, you know, what popcorn is, but it was very, very cheap. So every child that came had a drink and had popcorn, and they would see our show. At the end of the show, we would probably have between $9 and $12 US dollars. That was enough to take us to the cinema. So every child was $1 on ladies' night, and on Wednesdays, ladies were $1.50. So we had the money for the cinema, and whatever was left, we used to buy food. And the food that we would buy was a little box this big that had French fries and drumsticks, chicken sticks. I have to tell you that my mother made all our food from scratch because we didn't have money. So we never really had the convenience of fast food ever. We never really had the convenience of store-bought bread because my mom made her own bread. And the majority of the things we grew in our house. So I would beg my mother to buy canned food, just like all the other kids. And she was like, no, you know, I can make it for so much less, you know, in our house. And at the time, we were not thinking about health. We were thinking about economy. So I understood early on that, you know, in order to sometimes get ahead, you have to put the effort. These are all lessons that my mother taught me growing up.
She has just poured you with values.
Absolutely. She groomed me to be the person that I am today, right? And I have to say, though, when we would open our little boxes, each box was 99 cents, which is $1. When we ate our little French fries and our drumsticks, I don't think anything had ever tasted as delicious.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I worked for it. And I don't think anything in the world is a better feeling than you knowing that your effort is what gets you your reward, right? So I have to say that early in my life, very early, I was packed with learnings and lessons from an incredible woman that never saw what happened to her as a disadvantage. And so I never saw what happened to us as a disadvantage. As I grew, I participated in all events, and eventually more divorced women, you know, started to happen. Not that it's a good thing, but, you know, it just became a little bit more mainstream. And I was very popular in school. And the reason why I was very popular in school, because it started with my confidence. I could care less if somebody did not like the way I dressed, if they didn't like the way my hair looked, because this was my hair and it did not look like all the other kids. I did not look like all the other kids, but I didn't care. because I always felt that I was different for a reason. And so as I grew, I became very popular in my school. I was a very good student, early on detected by my mother that I had ADD. And instead of seeing it as a bad thing, my mother said it was my superpower. It was a way that I could do many things at the same time. And she spoke with my teachers. I remember saying, sit her in the back of the room. If she's walking, she's listening. Don't make her sit down. She needs to be active. And I am very fortunate that the teachers understood what my mother was trying to say. And I was successful within something that could have been seen as a disability. I used it as my superpower. So my mother took me to every activity that was free, and I participated in everything. So this really helped me come out of my shell. It helped me communicate better. It really forced me to face things head on. And when I was going to graduate from high school, I am a very good writer. But at the time, and history was also one of the things that I really loved because I loved learning and I loved reading. When I was 12 years old, I was given an award from the public library system in my country, from all the libraries in the island, as a student that read the most in 1 year. It was my way of traveling. It was my way of seeing a different world. It was my way of leaving where I was and really getting to know the world better. And I have to say that it was my way of learning a vocabulary. So I was a spelling bee champion 4 times in a row, thanks to this. So what I want to say is that many times as parents, we look at our children and we compare them with other kids. And we sometimes think that our kid is not the brightest. And we have to pay, I don't know how much more for a coach or for an academy, even when we can't have it. We don't have it. Or we see that our child is not as outspoken or, good in sports or in math and science. And we tell them these things and we break their spirits. They're not supposed to be like everyone.
Yes.
So I was really blessed to have a mother that understood that all 3 of her kids were meant to be different. And that no matter what I had financially, I was always living an abundant life because we were positive. I don't remember ever having a no except to protect. And whenever my mother would say no to something, she would say, I am doing this to protect you. I'm not doing this because I don't want you to do it. And I started to understand that saying no is a way to give yourself priority and also to protect yourself. And it's very hard for us because we teach our children to be people pleasers.
Yeah.
Smile, be nice, do this. And when they grow up, they become people pleasers. And then we don't understand why so many people are going through depression and anxiety and feel very, very low self-worth. It's because that's constructed when you're young. That is built when you're young. And so I share all this with you because in our poverty, because we were probably the poorest in the neighborhood, we were the cleanest, always. We took care of our things because we knew that there was no more. Like if I broke my doll, I would not get another one until next year. If I didn't take care of my shoes, I only got shoes when I grew. If my foot grew, then I would get new shoes. And, when I was 16 years old and it was time to decide what I wanted to do with college, all my teachers thought that I would become a journalist. But in my heart, I knew that I wanted to be a dancer. I was an artist. I was a creative. I needed expression. It's the way that I am. And my mother didn't say no. She just said, how about if you do 2 things? Do a double major, do your dance, and then have a minor in journalism. And she never said no. And then I was accepted into many colleges in the United States. And I knew we had no money. And I remember telling her, because we did it together. And she always said, I don't want you to ever feel that there are no opportunities for you. So I was accepted into all my colleges. And I chose a very top-tier college, to go to. And as a dancer, I went to school. I started school a little earlier, like the athletes did. And in that particular school, everybody found out that I was a Christian girl from Puerto Rico.
Oh.
With some very important values. And at my age, I was still a very much a girl. And it was around campus that I was still very much a girl that took care of herself and was very still waiting for somebody special. And it became a game to see who would take my specialness. And I was very afraid. And I remember calling my mom and saying, I don't want to be in the school anymore. And I didn't want to tell her why, because I knew that she would want me to come back home after the experience. But I ended up telling her, and I said, but I'm not going back to Puerto Rico. I'm going to stay, and I'm going to find another school. And I did. One of the schools that accepted me started like a month and a half later because I had started early, so I was able to register. And I graduated from that school. Now my daughter graduates next week from this college also. So there's definitely a legacy there. And my nephew graduated from that college. But I share all this because we think so many times that challenges are there to stop you. And the truth is that challenges are there to help you step up.
Yes.
And do and grow. I never took a dance lesson because my mother couldn't pay for it, but I was self-taught with a VHS and a video. I taught myself dance, ballet, and when I auditioned, I was accepted in my program by being self-taught. I didn't have the technique that other people had, but I had heart and I had innate talent that my mother pointed out so early on. So I knew that I had everything I needed. I had the right tools to be successful. Maybe I had to work a lot harder than everybody else because I had ADD and because I didn't have technique. But all that helped me realize how special I was, and it didn't deter me. I graduated. I traveled the world with a dance company at the age of 21.
Okay.
And when I was 21, I after a whole year of living out of a suitcase, I said, I want to have a family. Very early. I want to have my own family, and I did. I started a family very young, by choice, never an accident. And my daughter is I always say she's my biggest project.
Oh.
It was the one that I started and finished, and she is a beautiful grown woman today, and she is part of my NGO. So, it's just a really special story because she went to Syracuse also with high honors, and my daughter was given a full ride in this very top tier school. And she studied with the most amazing feminist women of our time. And she studied women and gender studies. So this is the reason why I am so, I don't want to say, I'm such a champion for women because I have seen what women can do. I have seen it since the moment that I was born. And so now my daughter works with me in our NGO, Mujer Emprende Latina. And my youngest daughter graduates from college next week. And I have to say, I can't be prouder because when she was graduating from high school, she said, I don't think I am ready to go to school, to college. And she said, can I have a gap year?
Oh.
And I remember my mother giving me the space. And I said, of course you can. My husband, her father, did not agree. I put my foot down because I believe that we give direction to our children, but we do not break their spirit. And if a child tells you that they're not feeling okay, that their mental health is not okay, listen to your kid. Listen to your kid because we hear so many awful stories about kids that told their parents so many times that they were not equipped yet, that they were not mature enough, or that they just didn't feel okay. And we just said, oh, yeah, that's just, you can do it. Look at whoever doing it. And we compare our children. And we don't realize that they come with their own tool set that will come out at a different time. But I listened to my daughter when she said, I don't feel ready. So she took a year off in a gap year. She was a volunteer. And she also went to Korea to learn Korean. So, I wanted to make sure that whatever her hobbies, whatever she was passionate about, I would support. And she was passionate about K-pop and that K-pop culture. And I said that we're going to do that. We're going to be the best K-pop person. So we went to Korea. She learned the language. She learned the culture. I was there with her for 3 months. And then I left her 7 months. Then she finished school. She did it by herself. But I was with her those first 3 months. So I tell you all the story. Maybe your first question had so many questions that I wanted to answer because I am Virginia Rivera, not because of all those titles, and not because of I am Virginia Rivera thanks to my mother.
Yes, I could see that.
And she is my hero.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that what I have my takeaway from this first part is that discipline is something which we can imbibe, but the option is
Absolutely.
us. Option is us. How we want to really absorb it within ourselves. And definitely, I'm so inspired. I've got two feelings. Let me be very frank. I'm so inspired by your mom. And the second feeling is, I'm so envying. I just can't imagine a mother like that. And really amazing, amazing, amazing. I think,
We can be that mother, and let me tell you, it's not easy. I have two daughters, and I always think, what would my mother do? But my daughters, I don't think they're my fans. Like I don't think my daughters at this age really appreciate what I try to do, with them. And maybe at my mother's age, when I was young, let me tell you, I was mad many times. So don't get me wrong. I wanted what other people wanted. I wanted clothes that you bought in the store. I didn't want clothes that you bought that we made. But I looked beautiful always. I just didn't appreciate it because I wanted to be like everybody else. Because there is a time in your life where being an equalizer, right? Being equal, really helps you. And thank God I went to a school with a uniform. I have to say that uniforms save lives of young people. When you have a uniform, you are part of a student body. And nobody knows if you have more money or less money. Nobody knows anything because you all
very
look
good.
the same. It is through your efforts that you start to be different. But it's really, really wonderful to have a uniform because we all start from the same basic, right? It's not because you have better shoes.
Allow me to relate it to one good old saying from this part of the world, our part of the world. Like stepping stones. Failures are the stepping stones for
Absolutely.
something when people say no to something, somehow if you want to really have it and that just registers in your mind and it's constantly there in your mind and you really go for it and hit it. So that's what I could see from your childhood and the way you have been brought up and the whole story that you have narrated of your childhood memories and everything. First thing is single mother background, and the second thing is you're being brought up with all siblings, being given the lead to go get it. If I can relate it to like my own father-in-law, my husband used to always say this to me. My husband wanted to buy a scooter, the two-wheeler. He was out of the college and he just got a job and he went there and like he went and asked my father-in-law like, can I just have a scooter, the two-wheeler, the thing. It's with a motor. The scooter is with the motor, it's not a bicycle, okay?
Yeah.
And so my father-in-law said, yeah, or you can. You definitely deserve to have it because you've got a job. What you do is you just go to the town over there, the town city area. There is a shop over there for the motorcycle. Say that you want a vehicle and you buy it and you can take it in installment, the compartment system, and you start paying your own. It's not like
I love
you want a scooter, okay, come, let's go get it. It's not like that. It's definitely not like that. Another thing my mom used to say, see that you have earned your morsel of food today. Be it anything. It's not a work doesn't mean that you have to go out and work or whatever thing. Whatever that you're eating today, have you done the justice to it? Once if you are answering your own consciousness for that, then you deserve to eat that. So thank you so much. Thanks for the fabulous start, really, Dr. Virginia, really, that's amazing. So it's just a celebration which is going on as such, as we know that every woman carries a chapter. Some people wish to hide it. Some people have turned them could be to a masterpiece with all vocal cords such that they are blown in a speaker And today, in this roundtable talk, the vulnerability has become the strength where the dream has taken the shape with the honor and the grit and the grind and the glory behind the success of it. And the story definitely deserves to be heard. So on that note, I think we should go on to the next question. Thank you, Dr. Vijaya. Thank you so much. Coming
Thank
back to
you.
the challenges. Yes, thank you. Moving away from the childhood and coming back to the challenges, can you just relate it to one particular moment of your life where, for everyone it is like that. At this moment where everything is shut down, but something, the intuition says that move on, and this is not a roadblock, but this is a path setter for you. Can you relate it to any of the turning points in your life?
I have many, but there is one point in my life that I thought, did I really make the wrong decision here? Did I precipitate, hard times and challenges? And that is when my daughter was probably 3 months old. My first daughter. And I remember thinking, we don't fit. I lived in a studio. We don't fit here. And my daughter's father, a student still, in college. And I was like, what am I going to do in order to make her more comfortable, make us survive? Because, it was just very small. And everything looks really great when you have it here. But when it plays out in real life, the lack of sleep, having to work, be a mom, be a partner, all these things. And I remember at the time thinking, if I had more space in this apartment, maybe I would feel better about all my decisions. But at the time we were very young, and not only young, but we were not mature enough. But I do remember thinking and going back to my mother's, there she goes again, my mother's idea that whenever you have an issue, she would always say, whenever there's a challenge, believe me, you are equipped to deal with it. And she would always say, God does not give, God gives his biggest battles to his strongest warriors. I remember this always. And so, I love India, and I'm going to make a little set because of their spiritual connection, right? And I was raised with this beautiful spiritual connection all the time. So I would always think, okay, so if I'm having a really bad problem right now, it's because deep down, I have the talent or the experience or the ability to deal with it. I just have to find it. So I remember at that point, wanting to take my daughter's father, and he was on my nerves. It was just, he was also a kid. That's like me, young people raising a child. And I remember constant arguments. And I remember thinking, this is not the way it's supposed to be. We need more space. So I went back to my mother's way of thinking, and I remember I danced. I am trained. Why don't I use this in order to make more money? So I would take my daughter to the park every day so we could expand, get out of the little spot. And in this park, I met a lot of women, and maybe women even 10, 15 years older than me, with their children. Oh, yeah, well, remember that women in America, especially college, professional women, they postergate having children until later. They first do. And I remember their complaints like, I am bigger, I haven't lost the baby weight, I don't recognize myself. And I remember just saying, I can help you exercise. I remember and they were like, how? And I created my first business plan. It was called Workout Buddy. Oh, wow. Literally what I did, I worked out with them. I did not teach them how to work out. If they had a stationary bike, I would stay with them for 1 hour while they were on the bike, and I did my own exercise. If they had a Reebok step, and that time people would do steps, and they would use yoga blocks. And I said, then you use your blocks and I'll do my own thing. So I started with Workout Buddy, and I have to tell you that from being a side hustle, it became my main hustle. Oh, like I worked at this all the time. I was able to move into a bigger apartment in less than 2 months. And I remember thinking, wow, this is amazing. My mom was so right. I have to say that entrepreneurship at the time was really a tool for me to survive, to get out of a hole, until I thought I could find another job.
Yeah.
Because we're raised thinking that we need corporate job. We need to work, and be successful.
Yeah.
And at the time, I don't think that being an entrepreneur at that age, I don't think it was looked upon as well. So I really wasn't entertaining becoming an entrepreneur at that age. But I remember thinking, this works. If you use your talents, and your abilities, you can make money doing this, So I look to entrepreneurship as that way to get ahead, but not as my mainstay. Well, almost 12 years later, I realized that it is a mainstay, that you can use entrepreneurship as a vehicle to attain your financial autonomy. And what I do today with Mujer Emprende Latina is like I help women, or as an organization, we serve in Puerto Rico and the United States. And now we have grown. Now we're in Latin America, we're in Spain, and very soon we'll be in India through Mahila Uyami. But what we do is we create support systems. We create systems so women can actually learn, get the experience, and find the capital to start their own venture. Because when you have your own venture, and it's been proven in many studies that women, when they get their income, they invest 90% of it in their family and their community. So 2 and 2 is always going to be 4. If we invest in women and women invest in communities, then that actually becomes a great formula for economic development for any nation.
Very true.
And what is so funny is that I don't think that we see women as infrastructure yet. I think the majority of the world still sees women as intervention, as a charity, as something to help. And they have not been able to harness the power of a woman that's determined to defend her family and to defend her community. When countries realize that, we will become a prosperous planet. Not only so, all this comes from being with a mother that did not give up. All this came from relying on my talents, even in the darkest of my moments, and really realizing that even in 2025, 26, we started Mujer Emprende Latina in 2016 when there were no women's empowerment organizations. And when we started here, they were like, oh, pink, cute. They thought we were cute. They didn't realize that what we were doing was that we were creating systems so women could actually become part of the economy of our country. So, it all trickles down, but it was with that aha moment when I was 21 saying, wait a minute, I can use what I know to create a product that other people will use, and will want to pay money for, and I can actually develop it and create a business. But like I said, at the time, I wasn't there yet. But, you fast forward and I realized that every time that I needed to grow, I relied on entrepreneurship. So now I do it as as my mainstay. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a social entrepreneur. And it has opened so many doors for me. And it's also allowed me to live the life that I want. Because
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. Really. It's very easy to talk about those unseen areas of women's life. And maybe even people are so delicate enough, they don't share those quiet sparks of identity. As you mentioned that you started as a trainer, basically. And, yeah, definitely. And many people are like this, where the shadows of the private struggle, they just keep it very private. But
right,
transforming them to the turning points and making an impact that is echoing beyond is something the individual achievement, which is there always. Allow me to mention one more quote over here. Success is not measured by titles alone, but by the depth of personal meaning that you relate to it, and also with the legacy that one leaves behind. So thank you so much. Really, really. It's not just a talk show. Definitely, it's something beyond that. That's what I could see. Now, again, one more question which has come to my mind. Some moments where you might have been so proud of your professional journey, right? So, where you, of course, I can understand the inception of Mahila Udyami, and it's not an easy joke. It's not easy to just have a set up a foundation like this globally, where people are connected internationally and they're contributing to it. So, can you share some proud moments?
I think that the proudest moment for me has been in my professional career when my daughter decided to join my organization. It just showed me, it talks about legacy. It talks about really living what you say. And not only that, it tells me that the way that I lived and I worked and how much I decided to put into my professional journey, she saw and she wanted to be part of it. So I worked for corporations, particularly global. I've always worked for multinationals, and the last multinational I worked for was Starbucks. And it's a global brand, and I was the marketing director. And my daughter, my youngest daughter, was pretty much raised amongst banners and posters and promotions and campaigns, because I've always been a working mom. I've always contributed at home, but I had to be many times a breadwinner in my home. And so I totally raised my daughters to know that even if they did get married, and they don't have to, if they did get married, and that's their choice, then they still need to have their financial autonomy. Because when we have financial autonomy, we make autonomous decisions. And even when we're in a couple or we're in a partnership, it doesn't mean that you don't consult. It doesn't mean that you don't listen to your partner. You do. It means that you can also contribute equally. And you are not at a power play where somebody, because they make more or they have more resources, will make you feel any less. And what we have seen is that in the majority of domestic violence situations where it's with an intimate partner, 90% is finance abuse. So a lot of women have to stay and endure difficult, toxic environment because of financial situation. And this is not only in a partnership or in your home, it could be at work. So many of us stay in a toxic environment at work because we don't have another option. And we have children to feed and mothers and dads that we have to take care of because we are blessed to still have them in our lives, right? So I believe that when I speak and Mahila speaks about really creating a system that supports women, it's because we know what it has been not to have that system. I don't think our system is designed for us right now. It is not. So we still have to make choices that make us feel very guilty. We still have to make choices. Am I going to be a career woman or family? Should I be at work or should I be at home? When your kid is sick and you can't leave and you have to ask somebody else to pick them up, you feel terrible at work because you feel like the worst mother. When your mom is in the hospital and you can't go take care of her because you have to work, you feel like the worst daughter. But the truth is that even when you find help, you're being a loving mother and a loving daughter.
Right.
But we still feel very guilty. And not only that, we allow others to weaponize that feeling. A real mother would not do this. A real daughter would not do this. I've heard this because I'm a life coach and a business coach, and I hear it every single day about how it's weaponized, the guilt that we feel against us, And the truth is that in today's world, it is very important that we all work. It is very important, and those women that actually stay at home to take care of their children have the hardest job.
Now I can understand how you have taken this legacy forward with such a beautiful social grace that has really, sculptured you and your profession, and of all people across globally. Definitely. Now I can really understand why Mahila Udyami has chosen you as the person to take the lead. I can really, really understand it. And it's
All right,
totally.
God chose me. God chose me for that. God chose me for
Well, if you allow me to ask the following, I'm getting inquisitive just because of my inquisitiveness. I'm just taking it to the next
that.
thing. What's the next big dream that you are currently chasing? Can you share it with us?
Absolutely. So, you know that Mahila Udiami's headquarters
Yeah.
is going to be, yeah, we are in our building phase. There is a beautiful program that my partner was Indian, has a beautiful family that I respect very much. And he was God sent, definitely, because all the way in Puerto Rico, I never heard of his name. I didn't know who he was. I went to India to receive an award by his institution. And
Oh,
this is how I had an opportunity to meet Advocate Piyush Pandit and his beautiful family. You know, his wife, his kids, his sisters, his father, his mother. They're just an incredible family, very, very loving and very giving. And I think that, and I'm sure that God said, there is somebody like you in another place that will understand what you want.
oh,
And he has this dream, and it's become my dream. So E-Village is really a vision from Advocate Piyush Pandit that I have fallen in love with this dream of really creating a space where everybody belongs. Everybody belongs. And, you know, starting with free education for the children, starting with Mahila being a place where women can come and become financially autonomous, and most importantly, help their communities stabilize and grow. I think that is the most important thing. But also, organic farming, regenerative agriculture, having the elderly working and feeling dignity because they contribute. And there's something that he wants to do there that resonates so much with my soul. And I know that God is going to give me life, so we can work on this. It's called Shakti Dam, and then
oh,
it's a plot of land that will be divided in small houses, so women can actually buy their plot and own it. You know, and at a very reasonable price, they can actually even work with us in Manila. So this is a dream that I have had since I was 7 years old. When I didn't have friends because my mother was a divorced woman. I remember thinking at that time, I wish there was a place where women could come and bring their kids and just live in a happy community and everybody respect each other and not have people talk about you. I remember thinking this when I was 7 because I knew that my parents' divorce was because my dad made a decision that my mother respected. So, you know, I believe that many times a lot of the things that happen to us don't just happen because we did it. It happens because we're part of something and something breaks. So I really hate to know that there are women out there that feel incomplete because they were abandoned or because they were left or because they were divorced. And this is a beautiful thing that Advocate Piyush Pandit told me. And I just said, oh my God, I am exactly where I need to be. This is exactly, and I understood why God sent me 15,000 miles away. And we're not there yet, but Mahila is first, and then that is second. So those beautiful plots are going to be there for women, widows, for divorced women, for career women that just decided they were not going to have a family and they're going to have an extended family, and they have your family. But sometimes, you know, it's just really hard around the world to be a woman alone, still today.
yeah.
Not so much in my
I'm
country,
trying to
but
just map it, like joining everything as a chorus on the thread, from a
yeah,
studio room flat, like I can imagine a young girl moving ahead with a single mother, and she is into the school where she has been, like targeted for her being her own, being special in her own way, but she never gives up and she goes out and she comes out in flying colors. Looking for a job and taking up her talents as, like as an initiative, as an investment, invested on herself, found a challenge where she just outgrown the challenge and she has found a life for herself. With a great organization like Mahila Udyami, with the next division of Mahila Dam, hats off to you, Dr. Virginia. Hats off to you.
that's my dream. My dream is to have that land and see women working and being successful and doing what God gave them as talents and abilities, so they can actually use it to the best advantage, and to have kids running around and learning, having fun. You know, in the E Village, we built a pool So we have a beautiful swimming pool in E-Village. We have this incredible school that Advocate Fusion has built, and I'm a patron of, and I totally believe in it.
Okay.
Totally believe in it.
Now, we have to give some message to the people also, like to the audience or the next generation. If you had been given a magic wand that could change one thing for the next generation, the female leaders, what would it be?
Well, this is going to sound very simplistic, but access to quality health care.
All right.
I would say quality education without my job.
Very true. Yes. We're talking about education, we're talking about everything, so many things, but without having access to it. People should be given access. Very true.
Access is everything, right? But access, what I've seen right now is that we have a lot of people that are sick because and they don't have access to quality healthcare. You know, because I'm in charge of quality education. That is my baby with World Education Policy. We will take that upon ourselves to really make sure that the world is providing quality education to all countries participating at the United Nations. That is what we've taken under our belt. But access to quality healthcare is the next thing. And I think that we need to seriously think about this because people are lasting longer. You know, they live longer, but not a quality of life.
Yes.
Because they don't have the money or the resources to go to a doctor to eat quality food, to really nurture that body, you know? And so I really, really, really hope and wish and pray that this will be something that everybody has access to. And around the world, it's not happening. And water. If I can be greedy, let me ask for water, because we do know that there's a lot of countries that don't have access to clean water. So I'm going to be a little greedy. So you ask me for one thing, I'm going to ask for two.
Well, we are coming to the close of it now. It's more kind of a rapid fire. You have to just define in one word, okay?
Okay.
The choice is just one word, no sentence. Maybe I might give another word to just support you. So your rapid fire starts now. One word that defines Dr. Virginia.
Tenacious.
Great. Fear or faith?
Faith. Completely. 100%.
Okay. Dream or reality? Which one is?
Dream.
Dream. A habit that changed your life.
Wake up early.
All right. Great. One message for your own younger self. If you would have been that.
This too shall pass.
This too shall pass. Very good. That's really great. Okay. Now, which one thing people would be surprised when they learn about your journey? That's people who know you, they would be surprised. Which one thing is that?
I'm claustrophobic.
All right.
And I travel all the time.
Oh, really? But you're being a boisterous, right? Before you were very boisterous. So traveling, I think, should not be a problem.
I travel all the time, but I don't like being in closed spaces.
Yeah.
So it's a struggle, but I've learned how to deal with it.
That's great. Okay. Before we close, can you complete this one line for me? My story became my strength when this thing happened.
When I became my mother's daughter.
All right. I was expecting this. Basically, if you allow me to define you, I see you more like a family woman. Like all your instructions, all your values, you have inherited from your family. That's very true. And that has really imbibed in you, in yourself, such that you have created your own self, you have sculptured your own self. That's so beautifully. And where others get to respect you with an awe. You know, there is a saying, where there is righteousness in the heart, there is beauty in the character. So we could see that beauty. When there is beauty in the character, there is always harmony in the home. That you have always, like you have lived with that. You have lived as an example for it. When you have harmony at home, there is always peace in the nation that you're taking forward to the community. So it's a beautiful time that I had with you, Dr. Virginia. Thanks for this, what a glorious start of She Avatar. And it's definitely, I think I made the best choice of inviting you for being the first person to be interviewed on this. And I can imagine, like, with 1008 stories, what it is going to be, and each one is going to be an inspiration, really.
1007 to go. I can't wait. Continue to celebrate women. Let's continue to celebrate women. Women are amazing, definitely. And collaboration is needed, men and women, in order to have a sustainable future for all. But we need to give women their.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Virginia. Thanks for that wonderful time, really. And it's always a pleasure being with you. And your smile is so very infectious. And I really admire it. I adore it always. And it's always a pleasure working with you and regularly. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your first program.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Give my love to your daughter too. Yeah, definitely. Sure.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm proud of you. Thank you. Bye-bye.